Is she here?
Is she here?
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Wait. I'll just introduce her.
Okay.
So, yeah. In this call we have the newly elected District Secretary Grace Yim. Do you have anything?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Grace. It's good to have you.
No problem.
And let's. No, not share. Who's in? Okay, so welcome to the Secretary's OTC workshop. I'm one of the presenters, Mani Chauhan. I'm the Division 28 West LTG.
I'm Mani, and I'm the IP 28 South Division Secretary.
Okay. So the role of a secretary. You are one of the most important board members. You will have to hang on a second. I want to move this. Okay. You will have to create sign-ins to meetings and service events, create agendas, keep track of hours. Your biggest task is to just do the MRF, which we'll get into later. You have to do both board meeting minutes and general meeting minutes, and help create a member roster with your treasurer. And obviously to be an active member in your club.
Yep.
Will this
Oh, okay.
Will this work? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So your MRFs will go to your lieutenant governor, your Kiwanis club, and your advisors. They can also go to your president if you want, and your division secretary. I'm just gonna wait just in case anyone wants to write anything down. Okay. So like I said, you're gonna have to create a club roster with your treasurer. That'll help the treasurer as well when they have to go to the member update center to recognize members for all their hard work, to complete the club officer information form on the cyber key, and this will be a tab, the future elections result to all MRF recipients. That'll be a tab in the actual MRF that we'll get into.
Okay, so one of your first duties is to record minutes. And basically why this is important, it's basically just to inform your officers and your members that maybe weren't present in one of your meetings. And it's like more of a review or a recap to go over the basic points that you've hit during your meeting. And the things that you want to include in your minutes is, number one, state what type of meeting it is. So it could be a club meeting, a board meeting, just specify that. The date, and here are some of like the bullet points that you want to hit. First, the call to order, which should be at the beginning, and then the adjournment that should be at the end. And then make sure to have an attendance report to see who was at that meeting, just for your personal reference. You also want to put in your own personal remarks of what was discussed during that meeting so that you can keep note of it, as well as other important remarks that you want the people that will look back at those minutes later on. Also, make sure to hit old business that you've discussed, as well as new business that plays into it later. And please keep it simple. You don't want to overwrite things because it can get very complicated when you read it later, and for other people to read it as well. And be sure to send that to your club board as well as your advisors. Yeah. And keeping track of hours, you must keep track of your hours and do it in a way that is most effective towards you. I know plenty of clubs use a Google form for that, and I find that very effective as well. And you could also do that on pencil and paper. Really, it's up to you and what your club wants as a personal preference. Google Sheets, another good method, and photos. Usually photos, what clubs do is they will have their members, when they go to a service event, submit proof that they were at that service event. So you would submit it, so that they would submit it to you, and it's up to you to mark and checkpoint which hours that they have at that specific service event. And as well as Google Classroom, you can have them submit it under an assignment tab or whatever your club decides to do with that. Service. Any community assistance performed with board approval, which means you cannot be paid for doing this, because then it's not service, it is then a job. and fundraising. Yes, fundraising for any of our preferred charities is considered service, and anything that will give back to our community as a whole. And you may not give hours, for example, you may not give hours if service is not done, such as 1 hour per $1 donated, which no, that just does not work.
I would also like to add, you can't give service hours for like unreasonable service hours for members doing something. So let's say you have like a card making thing and someone made 10 cards, you can't put 10 hours. Like that's not realistic, that's not reasonable. So you have to come up with a reasonable benchmark that you can use. So let's say for like four cards will get you an hour. That seems more reasonable.
Exactly.
Okay, the monthly report form.
Everyone's favorite form.
I will open that up. I sent everyone who is here, I sent everyone the club MRF. Hopefully you have it. If you don't, you can always find it on the cyber key. Okay. So here's the MRF. It looks long and complicated, but you'll get used to it.
It's not complicated once you know
complicated.
what every single tab is.
So, okay, let me just preface this by saying I don't know about you guys, but I always hate this gray area. This is just for the print area. If you're like me and you also hate it, just drag this blue line out and it'll give you more room, which you might need in one of the other tabs.
Wow.
So this is just instructions, what like a really brief overview of each tab. You don't really need to focus on that. Okay. So the task 1 tab. This is one of the most important tabs because the information you put on here will transfer over to other tabs. You see, if you can see right here at the name, there's a little lock thing. That means the format for this tab is locked and you can't change it. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Input everything. Input all this information like school address, city, state. If you can't find a certain piece of information, you can always ask either your president, LTG, even your past secretary, because the MRF, their old MRF, is bound to have this information. Again, input the names of all the people here. And one thing I will reiterate a lot throughout this: do not delete anything.
Please do not delete.
Leave it blank or hide it,
Just don't do
but
it.
don't delete anything. It'll mess up the formulas and it's just a mess. So yeah, just replace everything with this. Again, everything here is pretty self-explanatory. Do you have social media, a club newsletter, stuff like that. Club roster and directory. So this is where you will put the names and everything, all the contact information for all of your club members. So let's say you get to a point where let's say you get to a point where there are more than 135 members in your club. again, like I said, just pull it down and you will have more room. So let's say I'll put Melanie's name and then I'll put my name. Let's say you have this and you want to alphabetize it. Oh my god. You select this, you go to sort and filter at the top right corner, A to Z. I just continue with the current selection. Oh yeah, I put my last name.
Yeah, did you not notice?
No, I did not notice, but you know what? It's fine. Like I said, sort and filter, A to Z, continue with the current selection, and then it'll just switch our names. I suggest doing this. So I suggest writing all the names down first and then putting in like email, phone number, everything like that, because you can alphabetize this, but obviously these other rows will not change based to that. They will not conform to that.
You can actually select all of those cells all together and alphabetize based off of that first column.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing, like, I know a lot of clubs will like obviously not know the address of every single one of their members, or the grad year or like committee. They won't know every single thing. But two of a couple things that I suggest you should really like put, if they have a position, email, phone number, so you can contact them if you need to, and dues paid. Someone said something in the chat.
Yeah, for position, just put general member.
Yeah. And I suggest filling out the dues paid because that'll go to another tab. Any questions with this tab? There's like a whole explanation above too.
If you guys feel that we're going too fast, please let us know. I know that the MRF can be very confusing.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions with this tab, I will move on to the service record. So, like I said, the name, who said something? Is there anything I missed in the beginning? I was having technical difficulties in joining the meeting. We just in the beginning we just basically went over like the task 1, which is just club information, and your other responsibilities as secretary besides the MRF, so like meeting minutes, agendas, stuff like that. So that's all you missed before. What is a member ID? Wait. Melanie, could you explain that while I look at
Member ID is your identification number from CNH. It usually comes with a card that they give you like through the middle of your first year of joining. I got mine through like halfway into my freshman year of Key Club, and that's the number that they'll use to identify you throughout your term.
Your advisors will also have that ID when they put you into the membership update center. And it's important that you keep that ID because that's how you apply for scholarships and things of that sort.
Yes, please do not lose your ID, and always ask for your advisor if you need it.
Okay. Do we update the roster at the beginning of next school year, or do we continue this year and then update next year? You would continue this year and update as you get more members throughout the year. And one thing that I forgot to mention, thank you for reminding me. Let's say you get more members and don't bother alphabetizing the new members you get, because that will mess up not only everything, like you have like all this stuff here, but your service record as well. It'll mess up the service hours. So just to keep things easier, don't alphabetize it once at the beginning and then don't worry about it for the rest of the term. Once you put in hours, don't worry about it for the rest. Don't worry about alphabetizing for the rest of the term. There was like one more question. Oh yeah, like Miss Auntie typed in the chat, the presentation is being recorded. Mhm. Any more questions before we move on to the next tab? Okay. Okay, service record. Woo. This one's long. But it's self-explanatory basically. So who typed something?
Yes, you can access the recording later.
So you will enter the name of the project or event here. So if someone does like, what should I say, library, I'll just put library. Library. So like if someone volunteered at the library, you'd put that there. The date, you can either put the date, or if let's say it was a special event. So like in the fall where the Springs Preserve had their Halloween festival and it was on different dates. You can either put each of the dates, like put each date as a separate event, or if you know that all the what's it called? All the dates happen within a certain month, you can just put that one month. So let's say for library, if someone went multiple dates to the library to volunteer and it was in the month of April, you can just put April and that'll still count. As long as it's a way for you to organize everything. Again, so let's say I do a service hour and Melanie does a service hour. Wow, that's 2. Please don't mess with the formula. Please don't mess with the formula. Don't touch that. It'll just make it harder for you. So CNH has provided a lot of space for you to put all this, but let's say you do come up with like you have more service events. So it says add more columns before you use this one. So I would just copy this column or copy any of the other previous columns wherever you last ended. And right click, insert entire column, and it'll insert that column. So let's say, I'll just put this library. So let's say you go, someone has a question. Our club is doing a bunch of at-home service events. Do we still add it as an event even if it's not physical? Yes, you do. Anything that counts as like a service project or service event, you'd put this in here. So let's say you go to the library and whatever date it is, I'll do a service hour, Melanie does a service hour. This is empty, so you will have to put the formula in for that. So you would put equals sum, so that'll just add everything. And then you can copy or highlight all the rows for however many members you have. Press enter. And now you'll see the formula is in the cell. Yeah, so you can see 1 + 1, that's 2. And this will all count towards the total hours thing you see here. Any questions here? I'm sorry if I went too fast. Please tell me if I'm going too fast. If not, we shall continue. MRP.
Member recognition program. So basically, why is this a thing? This is to make sure that everyone in your club who has gone above and beyond what they're expected to do as a member of Key Club gets properly recognized, and it could be towards the district or international level even. It really just depends on what they do. So basically all you got to do here is, as you can see, the names already put in place as they're automatically transferred. And let me emphasize this, please update this throughout the term and don't do it last minute, because a lot of people procrastinate and it ended up being a huge mess, and we do not want that to happen. So it is your responsibility to properly fill this out so that your members can get properly recognized on the different district and international levels. And as you can see here, oh, you moved. There are different levels of recognition. There's the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum level. And there are different requirements that are needed in order to meet all of those MRP standards for each single level. So what I like about this newly updated MRF is that now you can just organize and check mark the amount of things that your members have done in each category so that you can see whether or not they qualify for that level. And it's like towards the end of the column that it tells you, yeah, the level of recognition. So for bronze, 5 out of 13, 6, silver, 6 out of 13, gold, 9 out of 13, and platinum, 10 out of 13. So this is just basically almost like a checklist, but don't procrastinate. Please don't procrastinate. And that's mostly it for the MRP.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, don't, like, let's say you have more than 6 division events, don't add division event 7. Don't
No.
don't do that because it's out of 13. So just don't do that. Okay. Is there any questions about the MRP tab before we move on? I'll give like 30 seconds. What is out of 13?
It's just like, what do the levels signify? Oh, okay. So each level basically recognizes what, how could I explain this? It recognizes how much that member has specifically done for Key Club. For example, bronze, it's almost considered like almost standard. For bronze, you need a minimum of 50 service hours and 5 out of the 13 columns here checked. So that they've attended an interclub or a division event or a district event, and all these different conferences or other events that are listed here, just to make sure that they've completed those and the minimum hours required for that level. And they all like intensify, which is why they're recognized on a different level for each one. So for example, platinum, the highest level you can get recognized, you need a minimum of 200 service hours needed and 10 out of the total events here listed to be completed. And it basically just recognizes your member of how much work that they've put into Key Club in a proper way, so that they don't feel that their work has gone to waste and that they have truly served the community.
If you guys attended your for whoever was there at the DCMs, I know at least for West, Jenna was there to recognize the members. So she said who got bronze and silver, and those were because of this. So they were being recognized because of the MRP, based on the MRP. Sorry.
Yeah.
So whoever got silver, whoever got silver got 100 service hours plus completed 6 out of the 13 checked above. So that's basically what this is for. Does the MRP need to be submitted monthly? Your MRF will be submitted monthly, so obviously this will be just going along with it, but the MRP has to be completed by January. Can I unmute myself? Yeah, for sure.
Hi guys. So basically my question is like, okay, so you know how at the end there's level of recognition?
Mm-hmm.
So it says 10 out of 13. So like what are the 13 like events? Like
These
there are those columns at the top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so okay. Like the different colors, or is it just like any of these events? Like
so it would be any. So let's say like
The
if some,
colors are just to organize.
so
Mhm.
let's say if someone was going for bronze, and let's say I was just going for bronze, and I attend all 4 of these training events, so you'd put an X, and let's say I attend 1 division event. There are 5 here, so I would qualify for bronze because I got 5 out of the 13, and assuming I have 50 service hours.
Mhm. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions? So if you click on one of the boxes that they attended, will it leave a check mark? Just you'll have to put in an X, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a checklist.
Yes, so. Alrighty, cool. If there's nothing else, I will continue on to club elections. Do you want to do this one, Melanie?
Club elections. This is pretty standard. This is just you fill out whenever your election season is. It's usually January or February towards the end of the term. And you fill in all of this information of each elect so that the next LTG for the next term has all this information later on to contact them. And it just makes it a lot easier as if you do this with the most updated information. So that's basically it for the club elections tab. There's not much. And oh, before you move on, for the different clubs do this a different way, because I know for some clubs there's vice president of service or vice president of spirit, and that's where, if you guys see, there's focus area, so that's where you would write in service or spirit or whatever your club does. And if you just have a vice president in general, that's just not applicable. So that's just for that. And there you go. That's club elections.
Yeah. There's something else. For further information regarding the MRP, there's a rubric and guideline on CNH CyberKey. Yes. And you can also ask either the committee chair once the leadership team gets appointed. You can either have the committee chair or your division member recognition coordinator.
Yes.
Alrighty. Anything else? We'll just move on to the annual report.
The AAR tab, my favorite tab. So basically what we use the AAR tab for is to recognize what level, if your club has gone above and beyond on the district or international level again. So it could be distinguished or diamond distinguished. So this is almost like you just fill it in, and most of it is automatic based on your monthly tabs and other tabs that you filled out. And by the time you complete this, it'll usually be by the end of the term or by February. You will have, where there's a 0 now, it's a 0 because we have not really filled out this MRF. But by the time the term is over, there will be a different number based on how your club has done overall. And what's it called? And if it meets a specific guideline or the specific what's it called? Minimum. Yeah, the minimum to get recognized for distinguished or diamond distinguished, that will get you recognized on the district or international level. And
Thanks, so I'll just like do a little example. Attendance at region training conference. So let's say it's October and I go to the October tab. We'll explain this in depth later, don't worry. But let's say I put yes for attendance for RTC for both officers and member. If you go back to the annual report, where is it? Okay, if you go back to the annual report, you'll see division or region training conference. It'll say yes right there because you filled out in the October tab, and you'll see the number has changed. So the more your club does and the more accurately you fill out your MRF, the number will increase, and it'll help your club get recognized. Oh wait, are there any questions? This one you don't really have to touch throughout the year. It'll update as you update the other tabs.
Minnie, I have a little bit to add. Wait, go back to the bottom. Okay, stop. Okay, see all of these orange sections down here where they're all zeros, and then you come over to 4A and it's a 1? If you scroll back up, Manny, go ahead. They're all labeled. Keep going, keep going. Okay, stop. Okay, so look at 4A, yeah, right there. You'll be able to see what things have zeros and what things do not have zeros. So if you look and you see in communications that it all says no, and you're like, wait, it's not all no. I know that we've done Twitter postings and Instagram postings. You can it'll help you identify where you have made your I don't want to call it an error, but mislabeling something properly. So that bottom part down by the ARR number is actually a very helpful self-diagnostic type thing, and you can go back and forth and see what you have done and what you need more to do. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to mute myself now.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Nope. Okay. Projects list. So, just like the AAR tab, this will this will fill itself out once you update your monthly tabs. So obviously this part is going to be from the task 1 tab. And let's say I go to the month of April. Again, we're going to explain everything. And let's say at my club, someone volunteers at the greenhouse in my school, 40 total member hours and 10 members, so 4 hours per member. If you go back to the projects list, in April, you should see, for April, it says greenhouse and it has all the information there. So as you update your monthly tabs, if you do it accurately, the projects list will also update itself. And CNH has provided more than enough for all the projects you guys do for the entire term. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the secretary for my past term did the March MRF, and so that was like part of this term. So do we just transfer last month's MRF into this MRF and submit it?
Submit.
Grace,
Right.
can you answer that question?
Yeah, because I'm not too sure about that one.
Can you repeat the question?
So last month was technically the beginning of the new term, and so because of like what happened and like the situation, basically my secretary from last term did the March MRF, and so do I just like transfer what she did, like she sends it to me and then I transfer everything onto this MRF and send it to you guys, or do I just like leave it?
Yeah, so for the March tab from the previous term, just copy and paste all the information and add it to this new MRF.
Okay.
And it would get accounted, the hours would get accounted for this term for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Anything else before we move on to the monthly tabs? No? Okay. Alrighty, we'll go to April just because each monthly tab is the same.
Yeah.
Eleni, you go ahead.
Okay. So this is basically what you're going to be updating every single month, and when you submit this every month. And there's a lot of different sections here. From here to where it ends to the project section, it's basically just a checklist to make sure what your club has done so far throughout the month. So how many meetings you've had, how many board meetings you've had, if your officers have been to a Kiwanis meeting or a DCM, and making sure or checking whether or not your members were there. Then there's a different section relating to what your club has done in relation to how you're communicating with the LTG on the division or district level. And that's just checking yes or no. And at the beginning, if you're a club that has, if you're a home club that has an LTG, which is a district member, please make sure to check to put yes on that, and make sure to put whether or not you have an international officer as well. And if you guys have new members that have paid in that specific month, to put that in, and when those dues were sent to the district. And yeah, and so let's move on to the project section. Here is where you're going to list the service projects and events that your club has done in that month. And you're going to put the name of that event and how many members were there and how many total accumulative hours your members have done in that event. And based on that service project, you're going to check each and every column here. So if it was a service project, you put that. And one thing I should mention, a service project that has major emphasis focus is one that deals with children. So only check that if it relates to kids. And all of that is pretty much self-explanatory. And regarding to whether it's a, what is it called? I'm having trouble reading. A governor project, that will be announced later in the term once the district governor announces what that specific focus is.
All right. I had a couple questions. Do we have to start submitting MRFs as of now? Yes, the MRFs are due the last day of each month by 6 p.m. And so yes, they are due by April 30th this month. And MRFs over the summer, yes, you still have to submit it over the summer because it's technically still part of like the key club year.
Yes, service does not end in the summer, guys. And let me specify the funds. So what are funds raised for service? These are the funds that you are donating towards a specific service organization or charity, which is very different from if you're having an event that fundraises money for your club for future use. So that's why there's a split through that. So whatever you're donating to the service organization or charity, you mark that in their specific column, and what you're raising for your personal use, you put that in funds raised for your club. And you also, if you have a service project where you had to spend money in order to have that, please list how much money you spent in that column. And let's move on to the narrative section, which is at the bottom.
Thing I'll say about the project section.
Oh, yeah.
There was last year, I know there was confusion sometimes as to what counts as a project. A project would be any fundraiser that your club does or participates in, or any service project that any member does. And that can also be individual hours. It does not have to be something your club does. Like as a club, if your club participated in a walk or a run, that'll count as a project. If, let's say, an individual member volunteered at a hospital, that will also count as a project. And so let's say like with hospital, if someone volunteered at the hospital, it would count as a project with another organization. So you would just like put an X over there. So, there's no like limit to what can count as a project as long as it's service.
Yep.
Now let's move on to the narrative section.
Wait, we have a question. Do we keep track of the total funds we currently have for our entire club? Do you mean like your entire budget, or because basically, okay, your entire budget, what's it called? You mostly keep track of that yourself, but what the projects section specifically asks you to do is to see if you had a fundraiser that you counted as a project that you guys did. You check that in this section, how much money you raised in that fundraiser, not your total budget. What if we have nothing for March nor April? I do not blame you if you don't have anything for March nor April, and that you will explain that in the narrative section, which we will get into now.
As for the budgeting, that's really the treasurer's job.
Yeah.
You're just keeping track of how the money is being categorized.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for like the fund section, if you need to work closely with your treasurer, please do. Like, keep in contact with them.
Yeah. Which service name was it about a service project helping kids? That's major emphasis focus. That one right there.
Okay.
There we go.
Was there something else? What if we have nothing for March or April? Still submit the MRF because
Yeah.
what you submit for the MRF will eventually go to the division MRF, which the LTGs have to fill out. That'll go to the district level. So still submit every month, even if like you have 0 service hours or if not, you didn't do anything. Still submit.
We don't blame you for, considering the situation we're in. So here we have the narrative section, and this is just like a little blurb that you are giving to the division, to whoever you're submitting this to, the LTG or the division secretary, what your club has been doing so far. So here you can mention what you guys have done so far as in service projects, and as well as other things happening in your club. Such as if it's election season, put that in. If you guys have a member of the month that you'd like to recognize, go ahead and put that in. And regarding the COVID-19 situation, if you can explain that here, if you guys haven't had any service events or projects due to the COVID-19 situation, we have not done any service events or fundraisers, which we do not blame you for. And I hope you guys are also staying safe. Please practice social distancing. How formal should the narrative be? Keep this pretty formal, because you are submitting this to the LTG, and if they want to recognize you on the CNHs on the district level, you can go onto the cyber key and furthermore. So you want to keep this formal.
No, it doesn't have to be so formal that you're talking to like an advisor or an adult, but
Yeah, no.
yeah.
But you also don't want to be unprofessional either. Just quick summary of what you've done. And project snapshot. Keep it short and simple. Yes. For the March MRF, it includes seniors. So do we have to include them in the roster if we copy and paste from the last MRF? No, because this is a new term and the seniors technically do not count towards this new term. So if you guys copy and paste from the last MRF, that one's, I wouldn't include them in the roster because it's going to mess up your track for the 2020 to 21 term.
So again, I'm just gonna quickly go back to club roster and directory. Let's say I'll just, okay, I'm lazy with something, but let's say, okay, let's say if you have a senior here and you want to delete them, just delete them. Don't bother like re-alphabetizing it, because again, like I said before, it'll mess up everything in the service record as well. So if you have like a blank line, you can just leave that there.
Yep.
Moving back. Project snapshot.
Project snapshot. This is again more emphasis onto what your service projects basically are. And these will automatically, the service project names will automatically transfer from the project list. Yeah, yes, the project section, my bad. But basically all that you need to do here is put who your project chair is or who organized that event. Usually it will be your club president. But if there is someone else who organized that event, such as your vice president of service or someone else, list them as the project chair. And that's basically all that you have to fill out in the project snapshots.
Yeah. If you do like, I know my school, if you have like a greenhouse or if you have individual service hours, put the name of whoever the coordinator was, or if you're like helping a teacher, put the name of like the teacher there. There were like questions. I'm sorry, I forgot them. Where can we find this template? It should have been emailed to you, but even if it's not, you can always find it on the CNH website. And so starting now, we just removed the 2020 seniors from our rosters. Yes. Anything else? Okay. So it's the same thing every month for each of these monthly tabs. And that is all for the MRF. So I will stop. Any final questions about any of the tabs in the MRF before we go back to the slides presentation?
I
Yeah.
have one more thing to say. Do not add this into the Google Drive and use Google Sheets on this. It
Yeah.
will mess up all the formatting. If you put it into Google Drive just as like a place to save it, that's fine, but don't open it in Google Sheets.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you know this, but like CCSD does offer Office free to, what's it called? CCSD offers Office free to its students, so you can download Excel from there if you already don't have it.
Yeah. If you're struggling downloading Excel, please contact your school technician or your principal to see how to get access to that. And that is mostly it for Excel. Yes, you do add service projects as you go on into the term.
Send a copy to the LTG always.
Always, as far as you updated it for that month.
How do we open it then if not in Google Sheets?
Yeah, it has to be in Excel because as Miss Santi said, it does mess up the formula if you do it in Google Sheets.
If someone volunteers at a hospital twice a week, do we put that in as part of the project? Yes, you would just put hospital like I have there in the chair, because the projects, oh my god, wait, okay. The project snapshot and the project section does not ask for a date. You do not have to worry about like specific dates as long as it happened within that month.
Yes, you can always ask your previous secretary if you're confused about the MRF. I highly recommend that as they have previous knowledge. And if you're still confused, once your division secretary gets appointed, you may ask them. And please do not fear asking your LTG. Minnie here is also a former division secretary. She knows all about this and she's very nice. Don't fear talking to her or any of your other LTGs. They're also very nice and would love to answer your questions.
When sending to the LTG, is there anything else we need to include in the email besides the file? Yes, thank you for reminding me. You need to specify in the email what tabs you updated, because I would hate for any LTG or division secretary to try and go through each one of the tabs to find out where, like, what you guys updated. So it is very helpful for club secretaries to specifically tell us what specific tabs they updated.
And can we turn in the MRF early before the due date? Yes, you can, as long as you make sure that after that due date, your members or your club doesn't have any service projects outside of that. So I know the LTGs and division secretaries love it when you submit it early. You make their job a lot easier. What if it's
an outside hours project? Who's the chair? Who's the chair? So if it's like, let's say if it's like at a hospital or any other organization, you would have to ask the member for like the name of the coordinators. Like sometimes I personally volunteer like at the Springs Preserve. So if I were to give a name to my secretary, I would give the name of my volunteer coordinator to the secretary.
Yes, and how exactly do we turn it in? Okay, great question. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to download or save your latest updated version of the MRF once you want to submit it. And you're going to email it to, at least for my division you're going to submit it to your LTG, your division secretary, your region advisor, the EA, but this depends for which division you're in. I know that South will have it submitted to your EA, and your club president, as well as your own club advisor, if they would like to see or if they require that you submit your MRF to them. And when you're making, and just make it as an attachment. And when you're writing your email, you write an introduction and the tabs that you updated as well, and also include any questions that you have if you have any for your LTG. When we copy and paste the March data from our predecessor, does it mess with the club roster directory? Minnie, do you know that one since you're updated on the term?
Can you copy it? Wait, let me read it. I didn't read it. When we copy and paste the March data from our predecessor, does it mess with the club roster and directory? Yes, and that is why I said like when you add the when you remove the seniors, just leave the entire row blank. Don't bother messing with that row. Just continue downward.
Yeah, let me emphasize again, please do not delete. It will cause so many problems if you delete anything. It's better to leave it blank than to delete it, because Excel will do some whack things and we do not want that to happen.
Both learned that the hard way. I'll tell you that. How do you set up the hours again for each member? I noticed that when you were demonstrating how to calculate service hours in total, both had 1 and 1, but then both of their totals were 2 hours. What? Okay, let me just go back to that.
Okay. So for that, it says how many service hours were collected in that specific service event. For the specific member, that will be shown on a different site. So Minnie, could you scroll to where it shows the total hours for the member? Yeah. So as you can see below the green row, yes, the green row, it says 2 and 2 for each member, and that's the total amount of hours that that specific member has. And it says 2 because it says that I had 1 hour at one service event and 1 hour for another service event, so it just adds it all up together.
See, like for my name, I have 1 hour of service here, and then oh my god, at the very end 1 hour of service, so that'll be 2. Does that answer your question?
As of now, do we send it to our LTG if there's no division secretary? This really depends on what your LTG wants, but I would highly recommend submitting it to your division secretary just so you make sure that you get the hang of submitting it to your division secretary so you don't forget it later on.
Yeah, you have to send to your LTG no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to start like getting in the habit of sending it to the division secretary, you can still send it to the secretary email. You'll get no response from that email. You'll get it from the LTG email, but just to get into the habit of submitting it to the division secretary, because for most of the term, that is what you will do.
Yeah, really. And do we copy all the members except for the senior and paste it to the club roster? Yes. Yes. Do that.
If there are more than 25 projects, which there probably won't be, how do you add more? In the monthly tabs, I'm guessing you're talking about the monthly tabs. Just, what's it called? Melanie. This was your tab, Melanie.
Oh, my bad. How do you add more? Is there like an add column or row? My bad. Add row section. I don't have access to your thing.
Melanie, there is not a way to add to this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Remember that it's 25 projects in a month. There's only 31 days max in a month. So to do more than that is, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Even some of the like powerhouse clubs in each of our divisions, we've seen all our the MRFs, they won't have 25.
And if you're doing individual hours, like she had a hospital worker and then, I don't know, maybe someone pulled weeds and you're getting really close to that 25, then I would suggest combining some of those and call it outside hours and combine it into one thing.
Well, alphabetizing the club roster throughout the year, yes, it will.
Please make sure you're careful. So since we're technically in the new term, can new members join now? Yes, they can. Instead of copying and pasting the information from can we just type them in by hand so they Yes, I would prefer doing that personally because it makes me feel more secure in what I'm doing. And so just so it makes sure that it doesn't mess up with the formula. I am so scared of messing up with the formula, so I'd rather do it by hand, but I know that can also get really annoying. So it's up to you.
Where do we access it? The CNH website, there is a thing for secretaries, like there's a drop.
Yeah, let me look for it now that we're here.
Any more?
Let's see.
MRF?
Yeah, please don't be afraid to ask because I know this is, again, very confusing. Thank you, Mrs. Santee.
You're welcome. I'm not trying to multitask. I can look stuff up.
Thank you.
But yeah, if you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah.
Do it now than in the middle of the term. If that is it, I will stop sharing my screen here. I can always go back to this at the end of the presentation if we need to. Oh wait, hang on. Let me
never know which members are seniors. It should say in your previous secretary's MRF, the graduation year, it should say the seniors are listed as class of 2020. So when you're filling out the new MRF, just cut them out.
And let me just share this. Okay, the monthly form. We are done with that. Tips and resources.
Secretaries, you are hands down the backbone of this club. Without you, your club would not be getting recognized on any level of key clubs. So it is crucial that you do not get lazy at any point throughout the term, especially towards the end of the term, because I know it can be hectic. You probably want to be done, but you cannot because there's just so much that goes into towards the end of the term regarding the MRP and the AAR that will be used for district use. So look at previous examples. Again, your best resource for your any questions, and even do this now, your IP secretary. They know the best as to how the club works and how your advisors want it to be marked. and getting help from them will really help you throughout the term. So if you have any doubt in anything, please, there is no stupid question. So please don't be afraid to ask them, or ask any previous division secretaries, current division secretaries, past LTGs, or current LTGs. And please turn in your MRFs on time. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when secretaries don't turn in their MRFs on time. Because truthfully, it hurts, because I don't want to see a club that doesn't get recognized on the division or district level. So please, please turn in your MRF on time.
It makes everyone's job easier.
Yes.
There was a question. The division secretary email, your LTG, once they get a division secretary, will be releasing that. So,
Yes.
what else? Oh, okay. One thing I suggest doing, if you're still confused about the MRF after this or any point in the year, go into your secretary email, your Key Club secretary email, and look at previous year's MRFs. They should all be there. Feedback from other LTGs and division secretaries should all be there. It's a great way. It's a great resource to help you.
Yeah.
Please turn them in on time. I can't emphasize that enough.
Additional resources. Yes, the cyber key is a great source for you to get help. I used this so many times last year. There is a secretary's manual that was made by the Zoe Yao, the district secretary for the 18-19 term. And it really, if you're still confused about any MRF tabs, she goes more into depth about those tabs, as well as any duties that you guys have, any questions regarding that. Other resources, again, district and division secretaries. Don't be afraid to ask our district secretary either. Grace is a very nice person. I know that she would love to answer your questions as well. LTGs, again, all the LTGs in Region 5, great people. If you have any questions, please talk to them. And past secretaries, your best resource to knowing how they want your club to be recognized or how things get marked down. So even if you have to ask a secretary from another club that you think would be a great resource for you, please ask. Any help really goes a long way.
Yeah, I know throughout the 2019-2020 term, me and Melanie helped each other a lot when we were doing our division MRFs, because sometimes it can get hectic and sometimes you just don't know. So literally anyone who has any experience with doing an MRF, they are a great person to ask.
Yes.
And that is it.
We made it, guys.
Yo. Any final questions, comments?
I appreciate all the secretaries. You guys do so much work. I didn't get a chance to turn in one service I did for a while back. Is it possible I could include in the MRF to make up for the likely lack of service done this month? How far back?
What?
Because she's asking that they didn't turn in a service hour that they did for a teacher, likely when quarantine started, and they were asking if they could include it in their MRF, like for like the March or April tab.
Yeah, so let's say like it's the week before school closed down. Yeah, so right now you would be submitting the monthly tab for April, which you have to complete. But let's say your members turn in hours from March, you can also submit those. You just have to specify in your email that I updated the March tab as well.
Yeah, please specify, because this helps your division secretary and your LTG a lot. I can tell you from personal experience, so that we don't have to go checking and making sure that everything
Do we turn in
Everything
2?
stays the same. So thank you for helping. Oh no, thank you guys for paying attention and listening and asking us questions.
I
We
know.
turn in
Very long.
2 MRFs in if my previous secretary didn't turn in. No. What you do is you update the most recent MRF with the information that they did for the March MRF to your LTG and everyone else that you submitted to. Also, when are we being
Um,
me?
you will find that out soon. You will find that out soon. I know that we usually announce the theme at OTC, but since OTC is on different dates for each position, we've decided to just announce it at the end. Sorry if you were really hyped to get the RTC theme today because you're the first like OTC workshop. No.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about the MRF, please, it's the same file. Don't do March tab and then go back and save the file a separate time, blank, and then do the April tab. Every tab should get filled up as you go.
Mhm.
So at the end of the year, it should just still be one MRF.
Yeah, everything from your previous submissions should all still be in your recent submissions.
Yes.
Yes, secretaries. I love you guys. And if you guys have any questions or anything that you would like to ask personally to us, you guys can always message us.
Liliana, I'm not sure where we can access it yet. This is the first one we're recording. The LTGs will let you know where it's available once we figure out where to put it.
We'll email it to everyone. We'll let you
It'll
know.
probably be a link that you can access.
I hope you saw. Yeah, Lorelai, yeah, we put some hints throughout. So I hope you noticed that.
So yeah, if you guys have any last minute questions, let us know.
Hi, is it okay if I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So if you didn't know, I will be serving CNH as district secretary this term. And I just wanted to tell you guys a couple things about like what I plan to implement during my term. So I plan to make a secretary's Discord channel dedicated to all the secretaries in one region and conduct court calls. So if you guys ever have any questions regarding MRFs, I will be conducting court calls and have like a group chat throughout the term where you can talk to one another and also to me personally. And I also plan to hold court calls regarding MRP AAR when the time comes. So that's one big thing that I plan to do this term. So please look out for that in the future, and more information regarding those things will be coming soon. And if you have any other questions regarding my platform or things I want to implement, feel free to message me personally anytime. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Grace, for everything you do. We love you.
I'm still kind of new to this club as a RTC theme. So usually when we didn't have a global pandemic, we
Stop.
okay, we would announce the RTC, the Region Training Conference theme at OTCs where all the officers will be there, everyone would know. So usually we'd announce it there. The RTC theme is like what you'll base your cheers off of once October comes around. And yeah. But we're doing it differently this year.
It's okay. Change happens.
Yeah. Anyways, if there's nothing else, thank you so
Thank you guys.
much for like an hour and a half. I know it was a long and tedious process.
Yes, please turn in the MRF early. I cannot emphasize this to you enough. It makes every LTG and division secretary's dream come true when you do that. You make our job a lot easier. But make sure that you have no events for after when you turn in the MRF. When we turn in the MRF for April, do we start a new MRF or do we continue the last secretary's MRF?
And the last secretary, so your previous secretary, when they did the March MRF, that was the 2019 to 2020 MRF.
Mm-hmm.
So you would start with the 2020 to 21 MRF, which was, the link was sent in the group chat. It's on the CNH website. You download that and put all the, why is my lighting bad? You download that and you put all the information from March into the 2020 to 21 MRF.
Yep.
Yeah, we would have gone to a school. It's usually held at West Tech.
This year it was going to be held at Green Valley because the West Tech advisor is moving.
Yep.
So next year it may be at Green Valley, it may be at another school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our